please.
Okay. All right, so on this question right here, the question asks us to write the standard form equation of the given graph. As you can see that it's already there, but we're going to do the process. I wanted to show the graph so you could see what you're supposed to choose. Most people are going to choose the x-intercepts, but you can't choose these. I mean, you can, but you're estimating what the values are. Okay? So so these x-intercepts are not a solid point, so I can use these solid points up here. But the vertex I have to choose because for me to find it, I got to use the vertex form. Okay, got to use the vertex form, and so the vertex is going to be 1, 2, which is right here on the graph. And the other point I'm going to use 0 and 1. Okay, other point I could have chosen, which would make this okay, is I could have chosen 2, 1, or I could have come down here and chosen 3, -2. I could have chosen those. Now you can choose any point, but the other ones you're estimating. Okay, so now I have that. I can write the standard form. So I'm going to plug in what we have. I can't find A. A doesn't come from the graph. And so therefore, I know that I'm going to go 1 equals A. My x value that generates 1 was 0. Okay, it's going to be minus 1, because that's the x coordinate of my vertex, squared plus 2. So now all I got to do is solve for A. Alright, so this is 1 equals A, -1 squared plus 2. -1 squared is +1. Multiply the A to the 1. It's going to equal A plus 2. Now I can solve for A, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. That's going to give me -1 equals my A. So that's how I find A. Now that I find A, I can plug it back in, and I can find my standard form equation. So y equals -1 parentheses x minus 1 squared plus 2. That's the vertex form of the equation. So you may be given these like that and ask what's the vertex of the problem. You need to make sure that you understand that I can pull out the h and k that represents the vertex of your graph. That may be a question you're asked on the test. I don't think on your test you're going to be asked to write the standard form of the equation given that, but being able to do so helps you identify all those other pieces and understand what all that is. Okay? -1, this is going to be x minus 1 times x minus 1 plus 2. Using the distributive property. -1, oh, no, I did that. X squared minus x plus 1 plus 2. Combine my like terms in here is going to be x squared minus 2x plus 1 plus 2. Now here I will have to distribute my negative and not just assume that it's going to come out, because my negative is going to change the sign of everything inside there. So it's going to be -x squared plus 2x minus 1 plus 2. Combine my like terms, gives me -x squared plus 2x plus 1. Is the standard form of my equation. Now, to talk about and give an extension about what we talked about yesterday, looking at the graph that represents this, could I use factoring to do the x-intercepts? Because I expect all of us to be able to graph this. I told you yesterday, if you can't do the factoring and to find the x-intercepts, always be comfortable with being able to use the calculator. So I have the graph up here for you. And looking at the graph, can factoring be a possibility? What are the x-intercepts by just looking at the graph right here? Okay, so we're almost at -0.5 right here, right? And then positive close to 2.5. Okay? So there is a possibility there of being able to do so, but I do know that there's decimals, right? And so usually when I see decimals, know that we can have decimals in our factoring. Know that we can have that. However, most of the time on those, if they're not clearly a solid decimal, I might not be able to use factoring. Now let's look back at here. Okay? And so if those were a 0.4 or some decimals in between there, factoring might not be a possibility. So quadratic formula would be a possibility, right? And that's what we talked about yesterday. So I want you to be able to look at the graph and analyze what might be the best way to solve.